Daniel Carter had learned that life could change because of a single unexpected moment. 5 years earlier, he had been an ordinary husband, proud father, and high school history teacher. Then his wife, Sarah, lost her battle with an aggressive illness, leaving Daniel alone to raise their 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The months that followed were the hardest of his life. There were mornings when he barely had enough energy to get out of bed. There were nights when he quietly cried after Lily had fallen asleep. But every time he looked at his daughter, he reminded himself of a promise he had made to Sarah. No matter what happens, Lily will always know she's loved. From that day forward, Daniel built his life around that promise. Every morning, he woke before sunrise. He made pancakes on Saturdays because they had been Lily's favorite family tradition. He packed her school lunch, always slipping a handwritten note inside. "You're stronger than you know. Mom would be proud of you. Love, Dad." Lily carefully saved every note in a colorful memory box beside her bed. After dropping her at school, Daniel worked part-time as a freelance writer while tutoring students in the evenings. Money was often tight, but they always managed. Daniel believed happiness wasn't measured by how much a person owned. It was measured by the people waiting for you when you came home. One Friday afternoon, Daniel received an unexpected phone call. His former college roommate, Michael, laughed through the speaker. "You still owe me a favor." Daniel smiled. "I was wondering when you'd collect. Our alumni charity dinner is tonight. My wife has the flu. I already paid for 2 seats. I hate to waste the ticket." Daniel hesitated. "I don't exactly own a tuxedo anymore." "You don't need one. It's just a fundraising dinner. Come eat free food and help a good cause." After convincing Lily's grandparents to watch her for the evening, Daniel borrowed a navy suit from his younger brother. It wasn't a perfect fit. The sleeves were slightly short, but it was clean and neatly pressed. The charity gala was held inside the Grand Regency Hotel, one of the city's most elegant ballrooms. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. A live orchestra played softly. Business leaders, philanthropists, and celebrities filled the room. Daniel immediately felt out of place. He quietly found the registration desk. The volunteer smiled. "Table 12. She handed him a place card. Unfortunately, while answering a text from Lily asking whether he remembered to eat dessert, Daniel accidentally walked into the wrong ballroom. The neighboring hall hosted an exclusive leadership dinner for executives and major donors. Its tables looked nearly identical. Seeing a place card marked with the number 12, Daniel assumed he had found the correct room. He quietly took an empty seat near the back. Several guests glanced toward him. His simple suit looked modest compared with the designer tuxedos surrounding him. Daniel noticed the curious stares, but assumed they were waiting for someone important. A few moments later, another guest arrived. A woman in her early 40s entered the room using a sleek motorized wheelchair. Although seated, she carried herself with unmistakable confidence. Conversations throughout the ballroom immediately softened. Executives stood respectfully. Board members greeted her warmly. Her name was Victoria Lawson. She was the founder and CEO of Lawson Biotech, one of the nation's most innovative medical research companies. Years earlier, a car accident had left her paralyzed from the waist down. Many people assumed the injury would end her career. Instead, she rebuilt her company into an international leader in neurological research. She inspired thousands not because she ignored hardship, but because she faced it openly. Victoria noticed the unfamiliar man seated at her reserved table. One of the event organizers quickly hurried over. "I'm terribly sorry, sir. I believe there's been a seating mistake." Daniel immediately stood. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I must have walked into the wrong room." He reached for his jacket, clearly embarrassed. Before he could leave, Victoria smiled. "Please, stay." The organizer looked confused. "But this table is reserved for board members." Victoria replied calmly. "Then tonight our board can welcome one more guest." Daniel hesitated. "I really don't want to inconvenience anyone." Victoria smiled again. "I have a feeling you're exactly where you're supposed to be." The other executives exchanged surprised glances. None of them knew that one simple seating mistake was about to become the beginning of a friendship that would forever change both of their lives. Daniel remained standing for another moment, unsure whether he truly belonged at the table. Victoria noticed his hesitation and smiled warmly. "I insist. Please sit." Daniel slowly returned to his chair. "Thank you. I hope I'm not causing trouble." Victoria laughed softly. "If this is the biggest problem we have tonight, I'd call it a successful evening. The executives around the table smiled politely, though a few still looked puzzled. Dinner began with quiet conversation. Most guests discussed stock markets, mergers, and investment portfolios. Daniel mostly listened. When someone finally asked what he did for a living, he answered honestly, "I tutor students and write educational materials. And my most important job is raising my daughter." One executive nodded politely before returning to a conversation about business. Victoria didn't. "What is your daughter like?" Daniel's face immediately brightened. "Lily loves science. She wants to build things. Last month, she turned old cardboard boxes into a pretend spaceship." Victoria laughed. "That sounds more creative than half the innovation meetings I attend." For the first time that evening, Daniel relaxed. As dinner continued, Victoria noticed something unusual. Unlike many people she met at formal events, Daniel never looked at her wheelchair with pity. He looked directly at her. He listened without interrupting. He treated her exactly as he treated everyone else. Later in the evening, dessert was served. A photographer approached the table. "Ms. Lawson, could we take a picture?" As everyone arranged themselves, Daniel quietly stepped aside. "I'll stay out of the photo." Victoria looked surprised. "Why? This is your event." She shook her head. "You were invited to dinner. Stand with us." The picture was taken with everyone smiling. Afterward, Victoria asked Daniel, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When people learned I used a wheelchair, many began speaking to me differently. They either pitied me or admired me before they even knew me." "You didn't. Why?" Daniel thought for a moment before answering. "When my wife became seriously ill, people stopped seeing her. They only saw her illness. She told me once, 'I wish people would remember I'm still me.'" He looked at Victoria kindly. "So that's how I try to treat everyone." For a moment, Victoria couldn't speak. No one at the table had ever explained it so simply. Before leaving the gala, Daniel finally realized he had attended the wrong event. The volunteer from the registration desk rushed over. "Oh no, we accidentally directed you to the executive ballroom." Daniel laughed. "I guess I owe everyone an apology." Victoria smiled. "I think we owe you our thanks." The following Monday, Daniel received an unexpected phone call. "Hello, Mr. Carter. This is Victoria Lawson. I hope I'm not interrupting." Daniel smiled. "Not at all. I was wondering. Our foundation supports STEM education. You mentioned Lily loves science. We're opening a weekend innovation program for children. I'd love to invite her." Daniel was surprised. "That's incredibly generous." Several weeks later, Lily attended her first robotics workshop. She loved every minute. Victoria often visited the classroom, encouraging students to ask questions and experiment without fear of failure. Watching Lily's excitement reminded her why she had started her company in the first place. Over the next year, Daniel and Victoria became close friends. Sometimes they met for coffee after Lily's classes. Sometimes they discussed books, family, and life instead of business. Daniel never asked for favors. Victoria never treated him as someone beneath her. They simply enjoyed each other's company. One afternoon, Victoria admitted, "You know, everyone says I changed your life." Daniel smiled. "I don't think that's true." She looked curious. "No, you opened a door for Lily. But you also reminded me something." "What?" "That life still surprises us." Victoria laughed. "And you reminded me that titles don't tell us who people really are." Years later, during a speech at a leadership conference, Victoria shared the story of the man who accidentally sat at the wrong table. "Everyone assumed it was a mistake," she said. "It turned out to be one of the best conversations of my life." Daniel and Lily watched from the audience. Lily squeezed her father's hand. "Dad, I'm glad you got lost." Daniel smiled. "So am I." People remembered the story because a single dad sat at the wrong table and met a paralyzed CEO. But those who knew the whole story remembered something deeper. A seating mistake didn't change their lives. The kindness that followed did. Sometimes the opportunities that shape our future don't arrive through perfect plans. They begin with an unexpected conversation, an open chair, and someone willing to say, "Please stay."